So something historic happened in Rochester in 2019. The community voted to say, we think it's important to take it beyond just letting the Rochester Police Department investigate themselves. We want a different process for that to happen.
Just as we worked hard to establish this agency, we also know we have to work harder to keep it, to sustain it. Voting it in was just the beginning. And we do need to keep that momentum as a community to protect something that was created by the community, that was voted in by the community.
Our legal battle that we're going through is very unfortunate. The police union, which is called the Locust Club, is against what the citizens of Rochester voted for. We had a referendum, 75% of the voters of the city of Rochester said they wanted a police accountability board. We have a charter, it's part of the city charter that empowers us to do investigations, to do policy recommendations, and the Locust Club disagreed with that, and they're trying to undo the will of the citizens of Rochester.
There's nothing clearer to me than 75% of our community coming out and saying, hey, we need to hold police accountable by ensuring that we empower a civilian-led accountability board.
The Rochester Police Locust Club, which is the police union for Rochester police officers, is currently challenging PAB's ability to conduct investigations of police misconduct. A lower court decision sided with the police union and said the PAB was not allowed to conduct investigations of police misconduct.
So in order to tell the story of Locust 2, which is the case that is currently under appeal, you kind of have to go back and tell the story of Locust 1, which is the initial case that struck down our ability to discipline officers directly.
Originally, the Locust Club brought a challenge over PAB's disciplinary authority. That went all the way up to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals limited PAB's ability to impose discipline on officers.
Then, as you know, the PAB continued to investigate any act of alleged misconduct that came before it from community complaints. Because I think ultimately, if you can't discipline, transparency is still just as valuable when it comes to the concept of greater accountability. The police union did not like that practice, and so they filed a second lawsuit stating that our agency has no authority to investigate or recommend any sort of disciplinary process to the chief. Even though it's advisory in nature and we don't discipline directly, they still said it ran afoul of the city charter. We got a decision from a lower level court judge who agreed with the Locust Club.
Now the Locust Club is going one step further. They're saying not only can you not discipline officers, you shouldn't even be able to investigate allegations of police misconduct. The reason this decision is so important in this particular legal case is so important is because it will determine whether or not individual cases of alleged police misconduct can be reviewed and investigated by a civilian-led oversight agency such as the PAB. This is inherently important for the trust of the community in the outcome of any such investigation. It ensures transparency over the findings of that investigation, and it will ultimately strengthen the effectiveness of accountability if the PAB is able to retain or regain those investigatory powers.
In absence of a decision, we have been unable to investigate any act of alleged misconduct, which leaves the community without, I think, a vital tool to investigate their claims of misconduct and to guarantee that their civil liberties are protected. What we have noticed working here for the past 3 years since we've opened our door to complaints is that in general, year after year, when we had investigatory power, we would receive more complaints than PSS, which tells us that the community generally felt more comfortable coming to folks outside of that police union and outside of that police agency for recourse when their rights were violated, allegedly. Without the authority to investigate, they're sort of left with no other option but to go to PSS. And for members of the community, there's a sense that that could lead to things like retaliation. So without us having the authority to really look into and hold people accountable, it does make one wonder how safe the community is and how who's protecting their civil liberties and rights.
So we're currently waiting on a decision, but we have our fingers crossed that the appellate division will overrule the lower court's decision and restore investigatory powers to the PAB for the sake of the Rochester community.
And we are not the only civilian oversight entity that has faced or will face legal battles, right? There's a little more than 8 in New York and even across the country. I just came back from NACOL conference, which happened in the late fall, and that stands for National Association Civilian Oversight for Law Enforcement. And I sat with executive directors from across the country, and our legal troubles are something that was regularly discussed.
This also, unfortunately, is a trend nationally. You know, as there was a wave of cities that were creating their own versions of police accountability boards, we saw the institutions that held powers try to fight that. And in Nashville, I saw the same thing. Nashville is a blue dot in a red state. Nashville is the capital of Tennessee, and Nashville is where the Fraternal Order of Police is headquartered. So when they had a community oversight board, unfortunately, it was seen as a threat. And in Rochester, we saw the same things. We had one of the more powerful police accountability boards in the country, allowing for disciplinary power, and people don't like to let go. Institutions don't like to let go of their power easily. So we saw litigation after litigation.
There is a desire and a need for independent investigation of police misconduct and policy recommendations that are outside of the police department, and it's not unique. We are really empowered here to have that, and we want to have it, and we want to, I think we do, have an increasingly better working relationship with the RPD, but unfortunately the Locust Club, and I'm a union member, so I understand unions protecting, but I think there's a higher responsibility when you're in the healthcare field like my union, or in the law enforcement field when you hold people's lives at hand, to have a higher accountability.
I have a very collaborative relationship with the chief, but you know, there's only so much he can do, right? Because the lawsuits aren't coming from the chief of police, they're coming from the police union. And let me say again, no issues relative to unions, right? But I think what's important is that what they were fighting against is what the community asked for. And so while the lawsuits have tried to limit or even extinguish what we do, it hasn't. I think it's just strengthened our resolve. It's ignited some more creativity, but that has not stopped the work. And let me just say that again. That's not stopped the work, because people are wondering, okay, well, what are you doing at the Police Accountability Board? We are still able to get out and to educate the community. We're still able to create policies and review the general orders. We're still able to do oversight investigations. We're still able to look at patterns and trends. Are there more arrests or stops happening in a particular neighborhood or a particular zip code? And you know, I'm really proud of the work from call to arrival, where we took a look at how long it takes to respond, for RPD to respond to a 911 call. So that's really powerful information, and that's the goal, is to really make sure that we put information in the hands of the community so they can make their own determinations.
And when you have that ability still to look at the system, it still allows the agency the ability to make recommendations on how do we make the systemic change that would need to be changed for our community if there are policies that are harmful, policies, practices. So there's still some teeth.
What makes this place so special to the fight of police misconduct is that it maintained its course by still trying to investigate up until the second lawsuit. It continued its efforts on the systemic end of recommending changes to the way RPD reports out its data, collects its data, monitors its officers, disciplines its officers, the type of force used against what type of populations, and really grappling with the question of what policing looks like in the future. Some of our work we've been fortunate enough to share out with agencies across the country. And the innovative approach that we've taken has become a guide to other agencies. And that's what makes, I think, the Rochester Police Accountability Board so unique and important.
It's not surprising that the PAB is currently being challenged, but we should see the PAB as part of a long struggle towards effective oversight of policing here in Rochester.
I feel confident with the outcome of this case that we'll get our investigatory powers back, that we could continue to do the work of the community, the good work that has happened already.
So what I'd say to community members who say, hey, Dr. Myers-Spall, how can I help? PAB, how can I help? I think, first and foremost, just stay involved and understand what we're doing. We put a lot of information on our website. You can go down rabbit holes on our website. Study and understand what we're doing.
rockpab.org, share it with your friends, share it on your social media. Make sure that people know they can do complaints through that website. They can get a lot of information on our policy work on that website.
First and foremost, still doing the good work, the brave work of reporting police misconduct when it occurs by coming to the Rochester PAB office on 57 St. Paul Street, going to our website, rockpab.org, and filing a complaint, giving us a call.
I think it's also important, and I love this about the democratic process, talk to your elected official, your representative, the mayor, your city council representative, and let them know that having a police accountability board in Rochester, New York is critically important.
Pay attention to what local officials are doing with respect to the PAB. Talk to members of the PAB, come to board meetings, get involved in the Police Accountability Board Alliance. Show up to city council meetings and tell city council what you think about what's happening with respect to police accountability in Rochester. I'll give you one example. Currently, PAB does not have unfettered access to RPD data and records, despite the fact that there's a legal mandate in the city charter which gives the Police Accountability Board, or is supposed to give the Police Accountability Board, access to all of this data and evidence from RPD in order to do various things, including to conduct patterns, practices, policies, and procedures evaluations. The PAB can't effectively operate without access to this data. That said, if community members showed up en masse to demand access to data and evidence for PAB, I don't think the city would be able to withhold it longer.
And so whenever the agency is out doing community events, community activities, they're doing workshops, seminars, presentations, we want the community to come out and support. I'd also say to community members that we are always looking for communities, members to be engaged in our board, so when board vacancies become available, that people would step up. And then I would say, the Alliance, the Police Accountability Board Alliance, is always looking for volunteers, so that is one way that our community can be engaged and help support the PAB.
They're the reason why we are in existence. They were the ones to bring the community together to create the agency that we have. So definitely get involved with the Police Accountability Board Alliance. Join us at our monthly board meetings that are public. We are here for the community, so it is always an open door for you to join us. And
all of us have contact with at least one young person. Please make sure that you are having conversations with our young people. As a former educator of 31 years, if I didn't involve young people in this conversation, I'd be remiss, but have good conversations with them. I have two African-American sons. One is 30, one is 18, and we're still having good conversations with both of them and reminding them of things. And so have those conversations, asking young people, are you seeing anything? Did you see something that happened that you just didn't, that wasn't quite right? And we need to make sure that we are keeping that conversation open with our young people. So please do that as well.
So if the community cares about transparency and accountability for police misconduct in Rochester and about our, police policies in Rochester, they need to stay engaged, get involved, and demand that kind of accountability and transparency to members of city government.
As a council member, it is my duty to listen to community. I am committed to using my entire power as a council member to make sure that if the lawsuit does not come out as we want it to, we not only appeal, but we start to think outside the box and creatively as to how we can honor the will of our community. We are very early on in understanding what the PAB can do. It's such an important institution. For decades, community members have recognized the need for a separate civilian-led accountability institution that has investigatory power, disciplinary power, and so on. So I would encourage people to stay the course, recognize it's a protracted struggle, and as long as we wake up every day, keep fighting, keep learning, being strategic, innovative in how we develop this institution, I believe we'll succeed.
It's hard work, but we're really dedicated to the work because we believe that it matters. And it's our hope that our work will inspire you and that it will matter to you as well.